Well, happy Thursday, everyone, and welcome to our latest webinar, where we will be discussing all things immunity, COVID, and how our clean label enthusiasts are changing behaviors related to their health management, especially the last few months. I am Kate Hamilton. For those new to Insights Now, we are a really agile team spread out around the United States. I'm currently based in Chicago and joined the team at the end of last year. This is also my debut webinar, and I have spotted a few friendly names who have popped in for today's session. So thank you so much for the support and for coming out. And with me today is one of our data gurus, Mark. Mark, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Hello, I'm Mark Stevens. I'm an associate statistician here at Insights Now, and I'm really excited to share some of the data and insights we found on supplements, immunity, and the COVID-19 crisis.
Now, when Mark first and I put our heads together, we realized that immunity and COVID has been a really hot topic in today's social conversation. We bet if we did a poll right this second that a bunch of you would raise your hands that you may have seen a variety of different memes on the topic of coronavirus that have popped up. Corona the beer specifically, we know got a lot of PR a couple of months ago when the pandemic first kind of set in. And one of the more funny memes that was topical for us was this idea of taking vitamin gummies meant that you are completely protected from the coronavirus. And we want to preface this meme introduction with that we realize the coronavirus is a very serious health condition, but sometimes a little bit of humor just helps to break up that seriousness and makes it a little bit more relatable. The data that we're going to show today goes into more detail than just vitamins or gummies, but how people are talking about immunity overall. So bringing us back to our topic for today is we're going to be sharing results with you from several different studies, and these are all related to our clean label enthusiasts and their thoughts on immunity, health management, and how it connects to the coronavirus pandemic. This data has been collected over the course of the past 12 months, and we've referenced these specific data collection points along the way. This is a really nice example of how you can use existing data and reports available on our App Store to find this relevant story about a specific topic. In this case, we're talking about supplements and vitamins. We also did some specific COVID-related research to address immunity needs directly, which have also been weaved throughout our presentation today. And to make sure that we're all on the same page, Mark is going to explain a little bit more on who clean label enthusiasts are.
So clean label enthusiasts are a segment of U.S. primary grocery shoppers. Well, global grocery shoppers, but we focused this research on only the US. And they're differentiated by their attitudes and behaviors regarding clean label and the artificial ingredients and other additives that they consider especially unhealthy in foods. So they read ingredient labels, and if they don't like the ingredients in the foods, they'll avoid the products or even the brands due to those concerns. And they make up about 27% of the US general population. Now, for this presentation, we have collected data in a number of different times over the past 12 months, and some of those have been for other research we've done, but we've collected some specific COVID-19 related information and used that for comparison.
So when Mark and I were designing the webinar for today, we structured the content a little bit differently for those who are familiar with Insights Now's webinar series. We see a lot of familiar names logged into the attendee list right now. And so we for sure wanted to tackle this idea of supplements specifically. But the other thing we also wanted to make sure was that we have this idea of education. So Insights Now has some specific ways on how to analyze data through a range of different behavioral frameworks. So some of the slides coming up are going to be a little bit more educational and dive into that gritty of how we interpreted these findings rather than just telling you what the information is.
So looking at the data, we have two very interesting periods of COVID-19 specific research. And the first was from March 2020, which we're calling early COVID. And the second was done in June 2020, which we call reopening COVID. Now, even back in March, we were already seeing a huge impact of COVID on diets and supplements, with 36% saying they were making a change to boost their immune system or keep themselves healthy. Since then, over the next 3 months, it has increased to a full 37% making changes. And this slight increase, although it's fairly small, shows that there is some stability in the and consistency in this behavior, which suggests that they're going to continue sticking with these changes and maybe making even more changes throughout the pandemic, as long as the concerns about COVID-19 persist.
And while we noticed that there were definitely changes happening within the clean label enthusiasts regarding their diet, we needed to spend a little bit more time understanding what immunity meant. So starting off with a very typical dictionary definition, Merriam-Webster defines immunity as a condition of being able to resist a particular disease, especially through preventing development of a pathogenic microorganism or by counteracting the effects of its products. So this is very scientific. It's a bit clunky for everyday language, right? So we polled our clean label enthusiasts to ground ourselves on their immunity point of views. And as we expected, we saw a range of definition types. Some of those included layman's terms of what we saw in the dictionary for the ability of the body to resist and fight off infections and disease. Others make the connection that immunity both helps prevent you from getting sick, as well as helps you in the recovery of an illness. So this person defines it as immunity is a system that helps you not get sick. But then if you do, your immunity helps you get well. Most of your immune system is tied to your digestive system. So we're starting to see a little bit of that food connection early on. Someone else says that a protective defense mechanism to keep you from getting ill is what your immunity stands for. Eating healthy and adding antioxidants to your diet, fresh vegetables and fruits provide for that healthy immune system. And then we see kind of a full circle definitions, which is a great jumping off point for our next topic, is that this person is thinking more intensely about their immunity because of COVID, and this last explanation is a great example. I would define immunity as my overall level of good health and resilience against sickness that is maintained through a balanced diet, vitamin and mineral supplements, exercise, sleep, and managing stress. Immunity is really important to me, especially now with the serious threat of COVID-19, because I don't have extra money to seek prolonged medical attention. It's essential that I'm able to bounce back or avoid any serious sickness from a financial and family standpoint. As we were analyzing what immunity meant, we also asked people to tell us, what they were doing to either help prevent or to help strengthen their immune support specifically in their health management routine. And we really kind of saw two major buckets. There's this idea of protection. You're born with a natural defense system already, but there's ways that you don't want to harm that. So we've got this protection aspect that we saw. And then we saw this idea of ways to also strengthen your immune system. And some of these tactics are much more common these days, maybe than they had been before the pandemic. Some of them are specifically state and government regulated. So things like staying away from others. We have that 6-foot distance rule that is still in effect in a lot of areas around the country. Very diligent protective mechanism is wearing face masks or gloves, so it's very deliberate action. Then we also saw this idea about exercising more and getting enough sleep. And at times, people kind of were balancing those two things, especially when they were under quarantine measures. They might have been getting more sleep than they needed. They were trying to balance that out with exercising as a result of that, just to keep their bodies up and moving. And obviously, washing hands is one of the key ways to stop the spread of disease, and it's been one of the more heavily marketed tactics both from the White House task force as well as, even more signage that you might have seen in public restrooms or in businesses these days about, washing hands is taking it to the next level past the cold and flu season into, non-traditional illness seasons as the coronavirus moves on. And in some way, shape, or form, and to all varying degrees, these current tactics are all part of that protection aspect. So while that was only one piece, we also talked about that strengthening aspect. And the way people defined strengthening their immune systems was through those diet behaviors as well as, adding supplements and vitamins. So eating fresh fruits and vegetables, drinking lots of fresh cold pressed vegetable juices. Sometimes I get lazy about consistently taking supplements, but I'm putting in extra effort to remember that daily, plus having an added extra immunity boosters like vitamin C and zinc, along with my usual multivitamin, and also paying more attention to eating healthy. We also saw people eating more at home, so they're cooking with more organic produce. They have also increased the amount of green vegetables they're consuming, like D12 and B12, or D and B12, along with a probiotic. And then during the pandemic, people have also been taking more single-letter vitamins to strengthen their immunity. And that's what we're going to go over next. Is Mark is going to talk about specific ingredients that add to this component.
So the first part of the question is, what changes are being made out of concerns for seasonal influenza and coronavirus? And we first approached this with a simple open-ended question back in March 2020. And then we coded those responses. And we saw that vitamins and supplements were the biggest change they were making, but they were also changing their diet and lifestyle, fruits and vegetables, and spices. Now we see the diet and lifestyle mostly as the protecting, but the vitamins and supplements, fruits and veggies, and spices are more about boosting their immunity. Now, the question is, what are they doing, consuming more of for immunity? And we revisited this question in this past month, or this current months of June, and we saw that we asked them on a number of ingredients that we identified from the previous quarter's survey. In the open end, we asked them specifically about those ingredients or products, foods, and if they were asking more, less, or the same amount of those foods in response to the COVID-19 concerns. Now, we can see that products like vitamin C, elderberry, fruits, citrus, vegetable juices, and oranges all had the majority of people saying they increased their usage of those as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. This is amongst COEs who made changes to their diet only, but amongst those people, the majority were increasing their usage of these products. Now, some other products are more of a baseline. And so here in blue, we see the percent who said they're using the same amount after COVID as they were using before. So products like the vitamin E, probiotics, calcium, general multivitamins, omega-3, and vitamin B were already part of their baseline routine. So they didn't have any increase in the amount they were using, or only a limited number increase, because there still are 20 to 30% or even 40% saying they're increasing. But there's definitely a baseline group that were already using them and didn't feel they needed to increase them. And amongst all these things, almost no one has decreased their use of any of these products due to in response to the COVID-19 product pandemic.
Now, as we pulled through all of the quotes and some of the ingredients that were speaking to that immunity aspect specifically, we noticed when we were talking about the strengthening aspect, so those things about diet and supplements, is that strengthening could be seen as long-term or short-term. And there was this topical word that we felt was really relevant that is played back by a lot of supplement companies when they go to market vitamins and supplements, is this idea of giving the immune system a boost during the pandemic and during this time of illness. So we saw wording like, I have been eating more veggies and fruits and trying to stay away from red meat as much as possible and taking various minerals and vitamins for that added boost. Someone else said, I've been taking immune boosting supplements, such as different forms of elderberry, which contain zinc. I also take vitamin C and other immune boosting supplements. So we thought this word was really kind of important when trying to analyze what strengthening your immune system looks like, because there's times where you take supplements for, your long-term health and that endurance to your immune system versus adding more of certain aspects to get that additional boost right now, present day, top of mind kind of thing.
We also wanted to know where clean label enthusiasts were going for their health and wellness benefits. And so last summer, we did a study where we looked at where the general population and where COEs were getting, COEs or clean label enthusiasts are getting their health and wellness benefits. So for the general population who aren't COEs, we see that unprocessed foods, supplements from natural sources are the leading candidates. And when we look at clean label enthusiasts, we actually see that those unprocessed foods and supplements from natural sources pop even more. And we see they are the major places where clean label enthusiasts are getting their health and wellness benefits in their diet. Now, when you're trying to provide a benefit like immunity, it's hard to convince people that your product actually does provide the benefit you're seeking. So one valuable tool is to understand what ingredients are believed to provide immunity. And we have a really cool test called the implicit-explicit test that is designed to figure this kind of thing out. And we applied it to figure out the association of specific ingredients with claims of immune support. Now, behind this test is a little bit of psychology and a behavioral framework that we love using here at Insights Now because we feel it provides really valuable insights into the modes of thinking. So Kate's going to go and explain a little bit about the modes of thinking.
Thank you, Mark. And this is going to be a lightning fast education piece on modes of thinking for how Insights Now approaches this framework, specifically for that implicit-explicit test. So system one of thinking gives you insights into actions or feelings that happen quickly, things such as habits, emotions, and context bias. And that's what we used in this study, where we asked a range of ingredients with how closely associated to immunity was it. System two thinking gives you insights as guests explain their choices and behaviors. It opens your eyes to the process a person uses to make a decision or complete a task. And Mark will explain how we divide out something that might have been an implicit or an explicit response through our survey technique in a few slides. And then system three thinking is anticipatory or perceptive thinking. It's about the future decisions that might happen as a result of understanding the first two systems.
So our implicit-explicit test is focused specifically on system one and system two thinking modes. It includes this yes or no question of, do they believe this ingredient provides immune support? And they can say yes or no. But it also records their time to response and compares that to a personalized baseline that is a key indicator of whether they're in the system one thinking mode, implicit thinking mode, or the system two explicit thinking mode. And then we use that to divide the responses into 4 groups. A fast yes is a positive implicit connection, and a fast no is a negative implicit connection. And we do the same division for slower responses into positive and negative explicit connections, or system 2 thinking. And remember that system 1 is the fast, unconscious, subconscious thinking, while system 2 is the reasoned decision-making system. And so when we ran this test, we tested a number of foods and ingredients, 36, and whether or not they're associated with immunity. So looking at these foods and ingredients that might be associated with immunity, we see scores. Kate, can you advance the slide? It's not going for me.
Sure.
We see scores, which we haven't labeled here yet because we're going to do a poll on which one you think is the highest. But just to give you a guide to what this is showing you is a score is the implicit explicit scores are on a 0 to 100 range, and a score of 0 is no association with immunity, and a score of 100 is a strong association with immunity.
So we're going to put up a poll in just a second. And as you can see, we mentioned that we tested 36 different ingredients. There's not 36 lines on here. We picked a few to highlight where some of those implicit and explicit associations in regards to immunity might be existing. But the poll that we're putting up right now is what you think is in this top spot. What earned a score of 85? So on your screen, you should see a little voting piece that comes up with 4 different ingredients. So go ahead and put in your guess, and then we'll reveal the results both from the poll and from the study. All right. Anybody else want to vote? We've got, I see some more movement. All right. I think that's a good place to stop the poll. Let's share those results.
So it looks like most people selected vitamin C, but we also had some candidates for orange juice. Now, looking at the actual results, we see that the majority of you got it right. It was vitamin C. Orange juice also does fairly well, but not quite as well. And actually, vitamin B12 was in second place, and no one actually selected that. So looking at these results, we see that if we look at the next slide, we have vitamin C, orange juice, and oranges, which are 3 very closely related ingredients because oranges include lots of vitamin C. But we see that the strongest association with vitamin C, probably because it's a vitamin and vitamins have a very inherent association. But orange juice actually has a higher score than orange itself, which suggests that the manufacturers and distributors of orange juice have done a really good job of connecting orange juice with immunity in the minds of the clean label enthusiasts and probably the general population of the US. And this shows that this is very useful for convincing people that the orange juice has the benefit they need. And if we look at the next slide, we can see that when we look at this, we interpret this as anything above 75 is a very strong association with immunity, while anything above 50 to 75 is just a positive association, not quite as strong. But these vitamin C, vitamin B12, and zinc have an exceptionally strong association with immunity.
Now, one of the shifts that we were interested in seeing about this behavior was their purchasing intent. So, and the results were actually both surprising and not surprising. We were happy to see what got laid out because while we know that there's specific immunity pieces related to supplements and what they're doing to boost, we didn't know how they were purchasing them or consuming them. So we asked our clean label enthusiasts to tell us about before the pandemic. before stores shut down, before you might have been under stay-at-home orders or under quarantine, so before COVID, how did you typically go about purchasing supplements? And this is where I meant by not surprising is this was a kind of an in-store purchase. It was probably associated with their weekly or monthly grocery store. But there's a supplement aisle. That's more than likely where they were purchasing them from. Now, when we asked about currently in the current purchasing landscape, we're seeing such a big spike in that online and home delivery space. And again, not totally surprising as people were under stay-at-home orders or under quarantine, as stores might have been closed. But one story that might have happened that we didn't see was that there could have been no change, or there could have been there could have been none of these. They could have stocked up on their supplements to last them throughout the pandemic, but this is actually still an active product that they're searching for and that they're purchasing. So in that online space, we wanted to know what kind of retailers they were going to fulfill that product order. And Amazon was the #1 listed company for where they're getting this, and it makes a little bit of sense, right? It's a mass retailer. They do have connections with Whole Foods and other grocery stores through their Amazon Prime Now delivery, and even with delivery promises not being as upheld by Amazon lately as they focused on the frontline product needs, it was still mainly the go-to online space. Another mass retailer that was available for our clean label enthusiasts to be purchasing from was Walmart. If you've paid attention to Walmart's business strategy recently, you know that they've been trying to compete very heavily in the Amazon space. They've been trying to ramp up their online offerings and their online deliveries. So it's interesting to see that Walmart is actually the second place most mentioned online retailer. But another category we noticed as well when sourcing vitamins and supplements specifically was the brands like Puritan's Pride and Swanson had some direct-to-consumer options, and those were getting mentioned in pretty high quantities in terms of these mass retailers, where they're going directly to the source to get what they need. Or they might be going to places like VitaCost, where there's a range of natural or supplement-type products that they can be purchasing from, and not just vitamins and supplements only. So it was an interesting read to see where this mix was, there was a divide between the mass retailers and the specific vitamin shops.
The clean label enthusiasts really want a clean supplement. And to provide that to them, you need to understand what a clean label is in supplements. So we asked an open end about clean label and supplements. And if you advance, Kate, we asked what it means and why is it important to them. And we coded that open end, and we saw about 50% were talking about avoiding bad ingredients, but 38% were actually seeking out beneficial ingredients like the immunity boosts that we saw earlier in this survey, like say vitamin C or the vitamin B12. And then finally, trust and reassurance was a major theme, where they wanted to feel reassured at 41%. And this was, while this survey was run last year, I believe these results would be present again if we ran it again today, especially in the COVID-19 crisis, where people are concerned about their the crisis in general. Now, this trust and reassurance really brings up what are the trusted sources of information for clean label enthusiasts. So Kate's going to tell you a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So last summer was when we first started this conversation about trust in supplements directly. And we polled clean label enthusiasts to find out who was the most trusted source for supplement information. The range of options they had were supplement companies, pharmaceutical companies, food companies, or, none of these. And while none of these may or may not be the strongest, depending on how you want to read that data, it was interesting to see that supplement companies well outperformed pharma and other food businesses. And when we repeated this question last week in our June study. Again, it speaks to the reliability of the clean label enthusiasts, is that their standards and their perceptions have maintained the same, which that reliability aspect we find really critical to understanding this segment of the population. But another thing that it tells us is that supplement companies have not cannibalized themselves during the pandemic. There could have been opportunities for them to overreach what their benefits were, and we don't see that happening because of this little to virtually no shift in who they trust most about supplement information. So also last week, we asked them to give us a little bit more information on why. What is it about supplement companies that make them seem more believable than the other options they were presented with? And some of these open-end explanations go into the idea that they believe supplement companies are a regulated market. You know, there's a list of ingredients that's going to come on a supplement or a vitamin or a mineral or whatever type of product you're purchasing. That could be a tablet, it could be a pill, it could be powder form, whatever it is, there's going to be a list of ingredients. And they feel that list gives an idea of transparency to the manufacturing and testing process, more so than the other two categories for where they're getting trusted information. So before we conclude our talk on supplements and clean label enthusiasts today, there were 4 overarching main ideas that we wanted to make sure that everybody took away from today. The first being that COVID-related immunity concerns are likely to hang around. So we've seen that reliability in the results between the diet changes that they're making and who they're trusting in the supplement space. We're also seeing that as certain states reopen, so to speak, that those phases are all staggered. And coronavirus is still very much top of mind. It hasn't been as cyclical as something like the flu and cold season that we may have seen in the past. So these immunity concerns are going into new seasons that haven't traditionally been there. We're also seeing products that market specific immunity boosting ingredients may pique the interest of clean label enthusiasts to purchasing and consuming. So Mark has shown the specific ingredients that they're looking for that have a highly implicit connection to immunity.
And those ingredients provide a really, knowing what those ingredients are provides a really helpful tool for designing your products because they are naturally associated with the benefit by consumers. And that makes convincing consumers that your product is effective that much easier. And as an additional point, we saw that the way consumers are purchasing their supplements have switched towards online and distance purchasing. Well, it still remains to be seen if all the people who switch to online distance purchasing will continue doing so as the COVID crisis abates. It's likely that at least a portion will discover that they like the online distance purchasing model, and that's really going to change the product discovery and brand choice process for supplements because the process of purchasing online inherently changes how they're presented with the choice of products and how they discover new products. And it's going to change how consumers and clean label enthusiasts are choosing which supplements are matter to them. So we have some additional supplements resources available on Clean Label Enthusiasts, and these are the reports that cover a lot of the materials that we use to put together this webinar today. And these are all available in our App Store. And if you want to get started with a free trial account, you can contact info@insightsnow.com to get access to our App Store, where you can use credits to access these reports, which provide valuable insights into clean label enthusiasts and other market segments of the U.S. and global industries. Kate?
And then in addition to there's that supplement data that Mark was talking about that's available on our App Store, we have also been reporting on clean label enthusiasts and COVID specifically throughout the last couple of months. So all of this content is archived on our website under the Webinars Now tab. So we had part 1 that fielded on April 16th. We had part 2 that launched May 21st. We had today's session, and then we've got another one coming up next week. And then in addition to these formal webinar and share outs, we've also started updating information on a more regular basis for our COVID tracker with clean living behavior. So you can subscribe specifically to this updated timeline, if you will, where you're just going to get notification every time something new about the Clean Label Enthusiast and COVID has been published. As you can see in this little video reel, we're updating fairly regularly every couple of days, but the Clean Label Enthusiasts are a very engaged group. We don't talk to them just about COVID. We talk to them on a wide variety of topics. This has been requested of us as the pandemic moves on and lingers. So we hope that you subscribe and look for more information. Are there any questions for Mark and I? We also have our email addresses here if something comes up later. We see a couple people typing at the moment. Let's see, one of the questions I see in here is about the App Store and how to get those reports and if they are free. I believe when you sign up for your first App Store access that you might be able to download one report free of charge. But if you email info@insightsnow.com, we will definitely get you set up with that App Store access and give you the opportunity to click around and see what kind of information is in there. This was a really fun project for Mark and I to work on because it wasn't a report out on one particular survey or one particular topic. So we were able to, find common threads about supplements and vitamins specifically, and then we peppered that in with new content and new conversations the last couple of months. So that type of thinking is perfectly doable by others in the App Store. It just takes, reading through the reports and finding those common threads from, different studies that we've executed with Clean Label Enthusiasts. I see at least two. Oh, here comes another one. Would you say general population follow Clean Label Enthusiasts, or are there major differences between the two groups? Mark, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So general population, we like to think of our Clean Label Enthusiasts as leading consumers who generally show where the market is going. However, in this case, I've actually seen that the Clean Label Enthusiasts seem to be a little bit cautionary on this COVID-19 pandemic, and they're a little bit more nervous and scared and a little bit slower to relax their restrictions than the general population. However, in many ways, the Clean Label Enthusiasts are not hugely different than general population. They tend to be a little bit better off. They're shifted towards some of the better off regions, and they, of course, are defined by their caring about artificial ingredients and ingredients they don't consider healthy.
I see at least two questions that we will need to send some follow-up email content about that I don't have the specific answers ready to share live, so we will follow up with those two separately. Thank you so much for joining Mark and I today. We were really excited to share this information with you. In the next iteration of Clean Label Enthusiast reporting and coronavirus updates is we've got a report next week on the global health and wellness behavior. That is with our colleagues Greg and Jacqueline, where they are going to be presenting from an international standpoint the global influences of consumer health and wellness choices. So you can register for that now. You'll also be getting a reminder invite after this session as well to stay tuned for that. We hope everybody has a great weekend. Thank you for joining us, and let us know if you need anything in the meantime. Have a good night.